From Barefoot to Billionaire, how a poor girl beat 25 candidates changed her life forever. It was the day everyone in Woodsville would talk about for years to come. A local girl, Eliza, known for her tattered shoes and fierce determination, stood before a row of Ivy League judges, each one bigger than life. They were the gatekeepers of dreams, with the power to either shatter or elevate her world. In that moment, the air crackled with tension, as if the universe itself held its breath. Would she stand out in a sea of privileged candidates, or would she fade into the shadows like a forgotten ghost? Eliza had a talent that was as rare as a diamond formed under pressure. At just 17, she could recite Shakespeare and crochet blankets in under 2 hours. But what truly grabbed attention was her story, one that spun from heartbreak and resilience. Raised in a tiny, crumbling house at the edge of town, she often resorted to scavenging for food, skipping school just to help her single mother. The whispers followed her everywhere, talk of her poverty and shame. But she wore it like armor, fueling a fire that blazed deep within her soul. Suddenly, whispers became gasps. The judges were leaning in, eyebrows raised in disbelief. "What was that?" someone in the back murmured. A chill wafted through the air as Eliza recounted the night she found a lost dog and nursed it back to health, only for the owners to refuse her a reward. Was it a metaphor for her own life? Heart-stopping moments like this had the audience hanging on every word, some even reaching for tissues. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more intense, Eliza revealed a hidden secret that would shatter expectations. She had stumbled upon a tainted fortune, literally. When cleaning her attic, she discovered an old box filled with rare coins that could change everything. The room erupted. Could she find a way to flip her fortune? Could her daring spirit match the stakes at play? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With the room buzzing like a live wire, doubt still lingered in the air. What if the coins weren't real? What if this was just another cruel twist of fate? Nervous hands hung in the balance, hearts pounded like thunder. As the judges glanced at each other, Eliza's mind raced with possibilities. Could this be the chance she'd been waiting for? Or was it just another dead end in a series of disappointments? The audience leaned in closer, the unease palpable. They knew she was on the brink of a breakthrough, yet the odds seemed overwhelming. What would she do next? A hush fell over the room, thick enough to slice with a knife. Little did they know, Eliza had one more card to play, and it was one that nobody saw coming. What was she hiding that could turn the tables once and for all? The silence shattered like glass when Eliza took a deep breath, her heart racing faster than ever. The moment felt electric. She could sense the weight of every single gaze upon her, each filled with curiosity, skepticism, and a hint of hope. This was her moment, the moment where everything could change or crumble to dust. Wipes of sweat formed on her brow as she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She had wanted to keep it hidden, the secret wrapped tight like a treasure map leading to unknown riches. The coins weren't just valuable, they were pieces of history, a connection to a past she could only assume belonged to someone rich and influential. What if they could lift her from the shadows? Eliza glanced at the judges, their expressions an unsettling mix of intrigue and disbelief. Taking another breath, she stepped forward. "Before I show you the coins, I have to explain something," she began, words tumbling out with fervor. "This isn't just about money. It's about the struggles that come with it, the sacrifices, the scars, everything I've endured to get to this very moment." A ripple of sympathy washed over the audience. Even a few judges exchanged soft looks, as if she had cracked open a door to their hearts. But she knew empathy wouldn't win her this battle. She needed proof, something concrete to erase the nagging whispers of doubt. Here it is. Mustering all her courage, Eliza reached into her satchel and pulled out a velvet pouch, the fabric worn yet classy, just like her. She slowly opened it and poured the shimmering coins into the palm of her hand. The metallic clinks rang out, echoing like a game-changing revelation. Gasps erupted, and a few judges leaned forward, eyes wide. The glimmering coins reflected multiple colors, as the overhead lights caught them just right. Ancient markings and portraits told of another world, where fortunes were made and lost at the whims of fate. But then, the unexpected happened. The sound of a scuffle broke out among some members of the audience. "Are those even real?" a voice shouted, slicing through the tension. Murmurs grew into a cacophony. "Eliza!" a familiar voice called out from the back. It was Amy, her childhood friend, and now the unofficial guardian of their secrets. You didn't see the fear in Eliza's chest constricted tighter. What was Amy doing here? Why was she the one to remind everyone of the dark paths they had traveled? With every eye now shifting towards Amy, the confidence Eliza had built crumbled. "No, wait! It's not what you think," Eliza cried, desperation bleeding into her tone. But it was too late. The crowd's attention swayed like the branches of a wilting tree in a storm. "Do you really think you can just flaunt this success?" Amy continued, her voice rising. "What about the truth of where you found those coins? You said you'd never tell." The audience's expressions morphed from disbelief to judgment. The stakes heightened. Eliza now stood at an impasse between revealing the truth and preserving her dream. Her heart raced. She could feel the walls closing in. What would happen if she confessed the dark and dangerous circumstances of that attic discovery? Would the coins still hold their worth, or would they be tainted by the shadow of betrayal? "In just a few moments, I may lose everything," Eliza thought, her gut twisting. The judges watched her expectantly, and yet, she realized there was something even deeper underlying her fear, a desire to finally break free and become who she was meant to be. Taking a deep breath, she knew she had to make a choice. I have something to confess. What would she reveal next? And would it cost her everything? Eliza's heart thudded in her chest, drowning out the chaos around her. The weight of the moment bore down like a storm cloud, heavy and fat with unshed rain. She could practically hear the whispers swirling through the audience, filling the air with accusation. "This is your chance," she whispered to herself, trying to bend the tension into strength. The coins glimmered in her palm, enticing yet ominous. They were more than just metal. They were promises of freedom, whispers of desires that had once felt so far from her reach. Eliza straightened her back, locking eyes with Amy. "I found these in an old attic while helping my grandmother clear out her house." The words spilled out, unbidden. "I was searching through boxes," and a judge raised an eyebrow skeptically. "And you haven't reported it to the authorities?" The heat crept into Eliza's cheeks. She could feel Amy's disappointment hitting her hard like a physical blow. "They're valuable. This can change everything." I thought if it came to this you thought wrong," Amy interjected, her voice sharp, slicing through the atmosphere like a knife. "Don't do this, Eliza. We made a promise." Eliza's stomach twisted, a knot of fear and guilt forming. What had once felt like a glorious opportunity now felt like a lead weight pulling her under. She thrust her hand back into the pouch. Maybe it was foolish to think treasure could yield freedom. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a group of young men at the back of the room, huddling together with something glinting under the light, something metallic. What were they doing? The crowd became restless, the tension in the air more palpable. "We demand to know where you really found these," boomed a voice from the back row, a man with an intimidating presence. Your childhood fairy tale about the attic doesn't make any sense. You think we'll just accept it? Without proof? Eliza's gaze darted to the judges, searching for support, but their faces were hardened, like stone. This isn't how it's supposed to be, she thought desperately. I don't have anything to fall back on. In that moment of chaos, something inside her shifted. The weight of others' expectations pressed down on her, but the instinct to protect herself surged. I can't let this moment slip away, she thought fiercely. Gathering every ounce of courage, Eliza raised her voice. These coins belong to someone, and I may not have legal possession, but that is not the point. Think about what they represent. They tell the story of lost dreams, and you're all a part of this now. You decide if they're worth something, or if I'm just another girl trying to rise from nothing. A ripple of shock coursed through the audience. Some judges leaned forward, visibly intrigued, while others whispered amongst themselves, eyes darting back to her with renewed interest. But just as she clung to hope, a sharp crack erupted through the tension. Eliza turned, the air thickening with dread. The group of men in the back had surged forward, something metallic glinting menacingly in one's hands. A gun? Panic crashed over the audience like tidal waves. Bodies shifted as they instinctively backed away, eyes wide with horror. Eliza's breath caught in her throat. She was caught in the eye of a storm, her dreams tangling with fear at a breakneck speed. Get down! A judge shouted, but the chaos erupted into full mayhem, screams puncturing the air. From the chaos, Eliza's heart raced faster than ever. Everything was spiraling out of control, and then her mind clamored for clarity. What do they want? What is their connection to the coins? As the crowd surged, Eliza knew she had to make a choice, to confront whatever had surged from the shadows, or risk losing everything she fought for. Would this frozen moment shatter her dreams forever, or could she turn it into her wildest victory? Eliza's heart raced as she faced the chaos unraveling around her. The gunman's threat hung in the air, heavy with a promise of violence. She could see the young men pushing through the crowd, their eyes wild. Fearfully, she glanced at Amy, who was now paler than before, clenching her hands in front of her as if praying for a miracle. "Stay back!" yelled the man with the gun, his voice sharp and shaking. The crowd quaked, people stumbling over each other in their desperate bid for safety. Eliza's world tipped on its axis. This was not how it was supposed to end. The coins, which once held the promise of escape, now seemed cursed. "Everyone stay calm!" shouted a judge, voice filled with authority, yet the words fell flat against the backdrop of panic. The gunman's laughter was cold and unhinged, echoing through the room like a mocking alarm bell. "Eliza!" Amy's voice pierced through the chaos, grounding Eliza for just a moment. "You have to get out. We can't do anything here." But a surge of defiance boiled within Eliza. This was her moment, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt powerless. "Is this what it's come down to?" Eliza shouted, her voice trembling but laced with defiance. The gunman stopped, his attention hooking onto her, curiosity mixed with the madness. "You think you can take our hope by threatening us? What do those coins mean to you?" he sneered. "They're all that stands between you and freedom, sweetheart. Hand them over, and this might end without blood." His threat sent a ripple of terror through the audience, but Eliza stood firm. "No," she declared, raising the coins high above her head like a beacon. "These represent dreams, a chance for a future. You can't extinguish that with fear." The gasps from the crowd were palpable, her words lifting some from the depths of panic. While Amy tried to pull her down, Eliza didn't move. She was on the precipice, staring into the abyss, but refusing to fall. The gunman's brow furrowed, conflicting emotions flickering across his face. "What do you know about dreams?" he spat, taking a step closer, the glint of the gun still focused but hesitating. "Nothing but dirt on your shoes." "Maybe," Eliza replied, her voice gaining strength, "but I know how it feels to fight for every scrap of hope. Each coin carries a story, stories of people just like me." The conviction in her voice ignited a spark in the audience, and she saw them leaning forward, hearts entangled in her words. "What are you trying to do?" he barked, eyes narrowing like a predator stalking prey. "To stand up," she roared, "to challenge the despair in this room? You want power? Then take this. But if you really want change, you have to listen. You can't take lives and expect anything to grow." Silence settled like a thick fog. The gunman faltered, caught off guard by not just her unexpected bravery, but the crowd's growing support. Eliza could feel the hum of potential swirling around, people clutching each other, rumors of hope igniting in whispers. Suddenly, an officer burst through the door with his badge gleaming. The gunman's gaze drifted, momentarily distracted. Eliza seized the moment, steeling herself for what came next. Then, in a flash, the room erupted into movement. Attention transcended into action, and Eliza realized she needed to act fast. Would she find the strength to break through this chaotic moment and become the hero she never thought she could be? Or would the gunman reclaim his power amidst the shaking crowd? The stakes heightened, and the floor trembled beneath Eliza's feet. The moment was here. Would she embrace it, or let it slip away forever? Eliza's heart pounded in her chest as chaos erupted around her. She could see the officer who had just entered the room, his uniform almost blinding in the dim light. It sparked hope in some, but fear in others. Tension hung thick like fog, obscuring their next move. "Freeze!" the officer shouted, his voice slicing through the air. But the gunman didn't obey. His eyes darted between Eliza and the officer, calculating his next play. "Make one false move, and I'll make sure everyone pays," he hissed, fixing the gun on Eliza as if she held the key to his sanity. The crowd gasped, a chilling wave of fear spreading like wildfire through the room. Eliza's stomach dropped. Eyes locked with the gunman, she felt the world narrowing to just the two of them. "You don't need to do this. You can choose a different path," she called out, her voice brimming with desperation. Would he listen to reason? Could a violent heart learn to feel again? Choose? What do you know about choices? He spat, bitterness etched on his face. "I'm stuck in a dead-end life. You think I have options? You're all just waiting to get out while I drown. Maybe, but you don't have to pull us all down with you." The words leapt from her, fueled by something deep inside her, a blend of rage and compassion. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, but she fought to keep her voice steady. The gunman paused, confusion flickering in his eyes. The crowd had fallen eerily silent, each person seemingly holding their breath. Eliza couldn't tell if they felt her courage or if they were simply frozen in fear. Then, a scream pierced through the silence. "Someone help!" A man near the back stumbled forward, panic-laden voice cracking. "He is going to hurt us!" The gunman turned abruptly, distracted, and Eliza seized this precious moment. "You want to be heard?" she yelled, her voice cutting through the tension. "No one is listening to your pain, but you can change that. You have the power to turn this around." He hesitated, the weapon trembling in his grip. Shadows played across his face, revealing the vulnerability hidden beneath his angry exterior. Was he just a man trying to reclaim what life had stolen from him? "Shut up. This is mine," he shouted, lashing out fiercely. The fear in the crowd surged again, and Eliza felt the pull of hope and despair intertwining. "It doesn't have to be." She took a cautious step forward, her hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. The crowd was with her now. She felt their energy rising, a storm brewing. "You can choose peace. You don't have to be the monster in this story." In that moment, she saw a flicker of something. Was it longing? Regret? The gunman's eyes darted towards the coins she still held, a glimmer of desperation reflecting in his gaze. "What do they mean?" "They're just objects," he called out, though tension bled into his voice. "No! They represent our hopes, our struggles." Eliza's heart begged him to see reason. "Each one is a dream, a life we're fighting for. You can either shatter those dreams or help us build them." A heartbeat passed, then another. The world balanced on a razor's edge between destruction and possibility. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. Startled, the gunman turned his head just as a figure broke through a second officer storming in, raising his weapon. The situation exploded into chaos again as shouts filled the air. "Don't move!" the officer commanded, but it was too late. With adrenaline flooding her veins, Eliza lunged forward. Would she manage to shield the gunman from an act he might regret? Or would this be the moment everything fell apart? The stakes were higher than ever. Each second felt like an eternity. What would happen next? Could Eliza become the bridge of hope in this moment of madness? The tension snapped, leaving the fate of everyone hanging in the balance. The officer's voice rang out again, an urgent command that pushed through the air like a knife. Eliza took one final step, breath hot in her throat, wishing to shield the gunman from more than just bullets. She didn't want to save him simply for her sake. She wanted him to emerge from his darkness. A flicker of fear danced behind the gunman's eyes as he faced not just the newcomer, but the resolve of the crowd that filled the room with breathless anticipation. Time seemed to stretch, and then everything blurred as the officer moved closer, weapon trained on the boy trembling in front of Eliza. "Put it down. Now!" he shouted, urging the gunman to reevaluate everything. The voice of authority filled the room, but it also seemed to amplify the volatility of the gunman's emotions. "Stay back," he cried, his body tense, eyes flashing with a mix of defiance and deep-seated pain. It was the harsh truth of his exposure, his vulnerable heart laying bare. Eliza saw it. He was struggling, battling the urge to pull the trigger and unleash his fury. Her throat tightened, and she fought against the wave of despair that threatened to drown her. "Eliza!" someone called. It was a fleeting sound, but it crashed against her, pulling her back from the brink of her thoughts. She turned her head, instinctively searching for help. The crowd was a sea of blurred faces, their fear mirroring her own. "Don't you see?" she pleaded, urging the boy who held the gun to listen to her. "You're not the only one drowning in pain. We all have our burdens. But lashing out won't solve them. You have to understand the beauty in creating, not destroying." The gunman's hand wavered, uncertainty coursing through him. "What do you know? What could you understand?" His voice trembled now, the threat becoming a question born from desperation. "I know you feel unheard," Eliza replied, her heart racing, urging the sincerity in her voice. "That there are so many who feel what you feel. This isn't just your story. This can be our story, one where we find a way out together, not wiping each other out." Behind her, the crowd began to murmur, their collective energy shifting, a wave of hope palpable among their chants for peace. A sharp sound erupted, a gunshot echoing through the hall. The room plunged into chaos. Eliza's heart seized. But not from the gunman. The shot had come from across the room, a third officer who had clearly misjudged the stakes. Eliza's breath caught in her throat, desperation clawing at her. "Stop!" she cried, her voice carrying over the chaos. The world blurred, people shouting, scrambling for cover. Eliza locked eyes with the gunman. Rage now coursed through him, fear mixing with the recognition of how precarious every moment had become. "What have you done?" he screamed, anguish etched on his face, the horror of the consequences crashing down around them. "You've made it worse." The weight of it all pressed down on Eliza. She was running out of time. "No!" We can still change it, she yelled, her voice cracking with urgency. Fight against this. You can guide this narrative differently. But as she reached out, the gunman's gaze turned wild, darting around for an escape route, his grasp on reality slipping. His resolve crumbled under the pressure. You don't understand. You'll never understand. Eliza, shouted someone else, but she was blockaded in this moment of entreaty. Each second bled into another, and she felt the world shift, disrupted. The gunman was losing it, his face twisted in fear, his finger twitching over the trigger, ready to unleash havoc. Would she lose him? Would the room descend into chaos? Would it all end here, in a moment of desperation, tangling threads of hope and despair into a tragic tapestry? As everything spiraled, she had one last chance. Her heart raced as she took a step forward, her mind resolute. Could love conquer fear in the hand of a broken soul? The atmosphere crackled with tension, leaving everyone on edge, waiting for a spark to ignite a potential explosion. What would happen next? Would Eliza manage to hold the delicate balance, or would chaos finally snuff out hope? Eliza felt the pulse of the moment, each heartbeat a drum roll of urgency. The gunman's face twisted into an expression of pure agony as confusion cascaded through his mind. He was teetering on the edge of despair, both seeking an escape and craving connection. The weight of the gun in his hand felt like a world shifting away from her grasp. Eliza! The voice echoed again, more frantic this time, but she could barely register it. Her focus was locked onto the gunman, willing him to see beyond this moment of torment. Listen to me, she shouted, stepping closer yet again, ignoring the danger that loomed between them. I'm not your enemy. She pressed, tears welling in her eyes. Whatever you think you're fighting, I'm here to help. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. The crowd held its breath, collective anxiety hanging thick in the air like fog. Around them, whispers of disbelief spiraled, some urging calm, others blaring out their fears. Get down, shouted an officer, drawing the terrified gazes of those around. The tension snapped. Everyone moved, scattering like startled birds, creating a disorienting flurry of bodies and noise. Eliza's heart raced even faster. Her eyes were fixed on the gunman who teetered like a fragile reed in a storm. Please, she implored, don't go down this path. I know it hurts. I know you feel alone. But this isn't the way. At her words, the gunman faltered. The gun wavered in his grip, reality crashing down around him like waves against a jagged cliff. No! Leave me alone! He screamed, but the defiance in his voice trembled, cracking under the weight of his agony. They don't care about me. They never have. Look around, Eliza urged, her voice both steel and silk. They care. They are afraid. Just like you. A ripple of realization spread through the crowd, a silent acknowledgement of shared suffering as individuals exchanged glances. Faces that had once stormed ideals now softened with understanding and fear, their humanity unraveling in the face of his torment. But then, the chaos erupted again, and another shot rang out, the sound deafening, a crack of thunder that shook Eliza to her core. A second officer was moving in, clearly misinterpreting the scene. No! Eliza cried out, a primal scream that tore through her throat. This moment wasn't just about the gunman. It was about all of them, about navigating the terrifying terrain of human desperation. The gunman's eyes widened. You see? You're all just waiting for me to slip. You want me to fail. No. Eliza shook her head fiercely. I want you to win. To walk away from this. To breathe again. This can end differently. Her desperation ignited a flicker of hope among the people behind her. They began to step forward, arms raised in solidarity. We're with you, someone cried out, breaking the barrier of fear in the room. The gunman's wild fury was met with a tide of voices, assuring and calm. Yet he hesitated, caught between worlds, one of destruction and the other, a still growing light. Eliza, he stumbled over her name, crumbling under the weight of his own choices. The last fissures of his resolve began to crack, but then, in a fluid heartbeat, he shifted, panic renewed. I can't. I just can't. Fear gripped Eliza again. She could feel it coiling around her heart, squeezing tight. All the voices faded into a dizzying blur as she stepped forward once more, willing him to look into her eyes. Their connection was fragile, like the gossamer of dawn, beautiful and fleeting. Trust me, she whispered, clutching her heart tightly in her chest. Trust us. And then, without warning, he broke. The gun clattered against the floor, echoing across the charged silence like a heartbeat of hope. But was it enough? As the crowd gasped, breaths held in unison, Eliza's heart raced with the electric thrill of change. This was the moment that could either heal or shatter them all. But just as they exhaled in relief, another shout rang out through the chaos, a voice bellowing instructions. Get the perimeter. Now! What now? Would they all be pulled back into chaos? Would they spiral down into the fray of violence once more? The answer hung heavily in the air, the tension palpable as Eliza braced herself for what came next. Eliza's heart pounded as her eyes flicked to the officers moving at breakneck speed around the perimeter, their shouts blending into an indistinguishable roar. Panic surged through her, threatening to squeeze her breath from her lungs. She had felt a spark of hope moments ago, but it was now overshadowed by the renewed chaos. The crowd, still reeling from the gunman's surrender, was now caught in an electric web of fear. Faces twisted in uncertainty, searching for answers that weren't there. The air smelled of sweat and desperation, thick and suffocating. After the gun had fallen, it felt like a small triumph, but here they were, on the edge of another cliff. Stay calm, Eliza called out, though her voice wavered. No sudden moves. The gunman was kneeling, hands trembling on the ground, his wild eyes darting this way, and that a deer caught in headlights. But Eliza took a small step back, her instincts screaming for her to grab him, to pull him to safety, away from the chaos. She couldn't help him if he was viewed as a threat. Get that kid out of here. One of the officers barked, eyes narrowing. Another voice chimed in, moved the crowd back. Now! Eliza's heart sank. The officer's tone was firm, uncompromising. This was a recipe for disaster. Please! Eliza shouted, trying to stay central, her arms now extended outward. Let us talk. He's not a danger anymore. We can work through this. But the officers weren't listening. A rapid flash of movement caught her eye, two officers flanking the perimeter the gunman had just vacated. One was reaching for his taser, another brandishing a baton. Eliza, move! The frantic voice called again, barely breaking through the thickness of her resolve. It was lost in the chaos. Before she could react, they stormed in a sudden clash of uniforms and threats. The gunman nearly curled in on himself, the fragile remnants of his courage dissolving. No! No, wait! Eliza cried, desperately pushing against the flow of retreating bodies. She locked eyes with the gunman one last time, a desperation burning inside her. Don't let them take you, she urged. You have the power to change this. In sudden retaliation, he flinched away. I can't, he cried, voice full of torment. They'll never understand. They're just like everyone else. No, Eliza shouted back. They're not. They're scared just like you are. But we can break this cycle. Get back. One of the officers yelled, startling Eliza. A low rumble grew. The crowd's fear simmered just beneath the surface, voices rising in confusion and anger. What are they doing? Someone shouted. He is not a threat. Use the taser, came a voice from the front, barked and edged with authority. The gunman's wide eyes darted between the officers and Eliza, a maelstrom of emotion swirling in that moment. Desperation, hope, and fear fought for dominance in his gaze. And then it happened, a flash of movement that sent ripples of shock through the crowd. A loud pop shattered the air. Eliza's blood ran cold. Had the gunman taken a shot? No, she gasped, instincts kicking in as she turned back to him. Was he still holding the gun? Did they miss something in the chaos? The crowd erupted into panic, screams spiraling as bodies shoved against one another in a frenzy of fear. Everyone was scattering, running, shouting for safety. Eliza's heart raced, a suffocating weight bearing down on her. "Stay with me," she shouted into the storm of chaos, locking eyes with the gunman once more through the shifting tide. But it was already too late. The crowd was consumed by terror, fracturing into 1,000 pieces, and within that chaos, the fleeting chance for unity slipped away, along with the fragile connection they had built. What had she missed? Would they all be consumed by the flames of fear once more? "Get down!" came another shout, but who would be left standing when the dust settled? Eliza braced herself, fighting against the thrumming in her chest. She needed to be the voice of reason, to weave her message of hope through the chaos once more. But as the chaos spiraled, she realized her battle was far from over. Could she ever pull them back from the edge? Would her voice be the rallying cry they needed? The answer hung in the electric air, suspended like the calm before a storm that threatened to drown them all. Eliza's heart raced, pounding like a drum. The air turned electric, filled with shouts and chaos. Faces around her twisted in fear, eyes darting in every direction. She felt the panic wrap around her like a vice, squeezing her throat tight. People screamed, "What is going on?" and "Get down!" as chaos erupted all around. Then she saw it, a figure lunging through the crowd, uncertain and wild, aiming toward the gunman. It was a woman with wild hair, eyes wide with terror. Eliza's gut twisted. Was this another threat? "Stop!" Eliza shouted, her voice breaking through the uproar. But the woman was driven by fear, by instincts that had overridden reason. She stumbled, nearly tripping over her own feet, hands flailing. The gunman shot a look of pure dread toward the officers, who seemed to be losing their grip. Before Eliza could even reach out, she watched the officer with the taser level it at the kneeling man. A surge of time and sensation slowed to a crawl. "No!" Eliza cried, launching herself forward. "You can't!" But it was too late. The taser fired, its prongs zipping through the air like angry wasps. Electricity crackled and struck the gunman. He convulsed, collapsing backward, legs flailing helplessly. Eliza's heart shattered at the sight. He was merely a broken mirror reflecting their shared trauma. The crowd's screams rose to a fever pitch. It felt like a nightmare that wouldn't wake. "Move!" officers shouted, forcing the throng back, shoving desperate people away like trash on the street. Eliza felt her breath catch as she fought against the tide. She reached the fallen man, the smell of burnt flesh sharp in her nostrils. His body lay still, the fight drained from him. The world around her blurred, every sound drowning in a suffocating sea. Then she heard them, a group of voices, urgently pleading, "Get help!" A child, no older than 10, looking from the fallen man to her, wide-eyed and afraid. "Is he dead?" Eliza shook her head, though doubt gnawed at her heart. "No, he is not. Just scared." But her voice quivered, revealing the uncertainty within. "Stay back." An officer pushed through, panic plastered on his face, as he crouched near the man, his large hands searching for signs of life. She felt anger bubble up, a wave against the shore. "You don't understand. He can be saved." But the officer didn't respond, eyes glued to the man before him, fingers rushing over his limbs. The voices in the crowd churned, escalating fears bubbling to the surface, and suddenly there it was, a gasp cutting through the chaos, steady yet haunting. The gunman blinked. Eliza's breath hitched. This was their chance. "Get the medics," she shouted, the urgency surging through her veins. "Please." "He is alive." She called for anyone who might listen, her voice powerfully resolute amid the disorder. But the officers held the crowd at bay, their attention still divided. Someone yelled, "Don't touch him," as fear and adrenaline escalated. Would they risk hurting him further? Eliza stepped forward. "He was just scared. He needs help, not more fear." The words hung in the air, heavy and demanding empathy. Then, she noticed the gunman wasn't just twitching. His eyes flickered open, reflecting a maelstrom of pain and confusion. Their gaze connected, and in that instant, Eliza felt their shared experiences colliding amidst the chaos: broken homes, desperation, and the unyielding will to survive. "Please," he rasped, his voice barely audible under the cacophony, "I didn't." The crowd collectively held its breath, the tension thick as concrete. But just as she extended her hand, hoping to bridge the gap, another shout pierced the air. Then chaos hit again. A collective gasp swept the crowd as a second pop erupted nearby, another gunshot, echoing through the haze. Everyone froze. Eliza's heart sank deeper, as her stomach turned in dread. Would this be the moment that shattered whatever fragile hope was left? What lay ahead now? Amidst this spiraling chaos, was there still a way forward? Eliza felt like she was trapped inside a twisted nightmare, her heart racing as the chaos around her unfolded. Everyone froze, weighed down by the pulse of fear echoing in their chests. The gunshot hung heavy in the air, though she couldn't see where it had come from. People stumbled backward, gasping, and screams tore through the audience like lightning. Her mind raced. She had faced the darkness before, and somehow had come out holding the light. Would this moment steal that away? Time seemed to stretch as she locked eyes with the gunman, who was still on the floor. His expression was a mix of confusion and remorse, vulnerability palpable in his wide, darting eyes. "I didn't mean," he mumbled, the words slurring like a sinking ship. "Breathe." Eliza found her voice again, this time more assured. She dropped to one knee beside him, determined. "You're not alone in this. I said it before, and I'll say it again. You don't have to do this. We can help you." As officers fought to gain control of the scene, their commands ricocheting off the walls, she felt the air shift. The crowd was disturbed, shaking as they grasped at her words like lifelines. Slowly, the fear in their eyes morphed into something else: understanding. It was as if they felt it too, the raw desperation of a soul caught in a storm. "Stay back." An officer barked, barking orders through the din, his body now shielding the gunman from the chaos. But Eliza, feeling waves of determination crash over her, pressed forward. "No!" Her voice rang firm as the crowd began to move again, testing boundaries, a slow wave of solidarity blossoming. "Listen to him. He is scared, just like all of us. If anyone knows what it means to fight for survival, it's him." She felt a surge of commitment swell, bolstered by the energy around her. The people, once immobilized by fear, were beginning to understand the weight of that shared suffering the struggle laid bare. A recognition sparked in the crowd, a subtle courage igniting the fire of defiance against the madness. "Help him!" someone shouted from the back, emboldened by Eliza's words. Faces, once twisted in panic, began to soften, viewing the situation through a lens of compassion. It was that moment that everything changed. The officers, realizing the shift, began to settle their expressions, but arms remained tense. Eliza took a deep breath, willing the weight of her resolve to bend the chaos in her direction. "There is strength in vulnerability," she insisted, offering her hand toward the gunman. "See this? It's meant for connection, not destruction. Let us pierce through the darkness together." The gunman flickered his gaze to her outstretched hand, confusion still thick in his eyes. "Why would you help me?" he stammered, the tremble in his voice betraying the fierce pain inside. "Because I know what it's like to be lost." Her voice rang out, stealing every ounce of breath in that moment. The crowd hushed, each person holding on to their bits of hope. It was too quiet for words, until finally, he nodded slowly, tears glistening like shards of glass against the chaos. Her heart raced as she continued, "You don't have to fight anymore. We're all here to rise together." The crowd felt it then, a wave of energy forming into solidarity that even the officers couldn't ignore. Eliza watched as perceptions changed in real time, the beautiful shift of understanding igniting flames of hope in the wake of their darkest moments. In a fragile whisper, the gunman lifted his hand slowly, releasing the confines of fear. "I don't want to fight," he admitted, voice raw, catching the audience in a grip of silent reverie. "Then don't," Eliza replied, her voice steady as steel, infused with raw truth. "Let us help you heal. You can walk away from this together. Just let us in." "In togetherness, we find peace," resounded an officer, stepping forward cautiously. Eliza watched in quiet awe as the gunman lowered the weapon, landing heavily against the ground. It echoed loud against the trembling silence, yet with deeper meaning, symbolizing a fracture but also rebirth, a shift toward understanding, toward a bridge forged in collective strength. They weren't losing. They were beginning to rise. As the chaos settled, the crowd began to surge forward, arms outstretched, hopeful faces reflecting both trust and hope. The officers cautiously moved aside to provide room for healing, the energy infused with compassion warming the room. Eliza couldn't help but smile, feeling the weight lift from her heart, a wave of relief washing over the gathering. This wasn't merely a conclusion. It was the dawn of something remarkably human, a realization that they could find strength in compassion. The whispers of fear evaporated, and as the gunman began to step away from darkness, Eliza's heart swelled with joy. She had broken free from the shackles of despair. This was what she fought for. Together, they would build brighter futures, transforming every wound into a story of resilience. As they moved forward, hand in hand, a new narrative was born. Hope had a way of rising from the ashes, and that day, the streets of Woodsville became echoing testament to their newfound strength. Now is your moment to show support. Subscribe immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help this community grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this amazing conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Your voice counts, let it be heard.